Right then, we are now back from the US tour, and I thought I would look at 5 things that have happened, 5 things that we saw, and maybe put it together and say, right, what did we learn from those games that we saw over in America? Let's get into it. First one then, Leny Yoro emerges a bit of a rock and a leader. Leny Yoro's performances on the US tour were probably, for me, the most eye-catching of any of the players. He was the most consistent. The Bournemouth game especially, composed in possession, stepping into midfield. He was intercepting in the transitions. He showed a maturity beyond his years. Against Everton in Atlanta, we saw him marshalling the back line really well, especially when they was hitting us on the counter. I thought it wasn't really coming down his side, or when it did come down his side, he wasn't the one that was struggling with it. The ability that he's got to carry the ball forward from defence and break lines, obviously an attribute that Ruben Amorim's going to value highly. I just thought, despite what's normally quite experimental in terms of the way the teams are going to line up, Yoro looked really consistent, really calm, he looked like one of United's better players, in honesty. He dealt with the physicality really well, really solid. Didn't really give away the ball much under any sort of pressure. Whilst the defensive unit at times looked quite disjointed, it wasn't due to him. You know, he was almost captain-like in his presence. He didn't get a pre-season last season because he got injured on it. So going into this season with a pre-season, you know, he's not just coming into this trying to find his feet. He's coming in as a first choice, very important player in Ruben Amorim's back line. I thought he was mad impressive on the tour, to be honest with you. Number 2, the midfield still missing a pairing. Now, this was laid bare, I think, on the tour. United don't have a natural midfield pairing. We saw minutes shared between Bruno, Casemiro, Mbeumo, Ugarte. None of them really looked composed, looked balanced, looked quality. There wasn't like an obvious, we found it sort of pairing. We saw Bruno played as one of the attackers. We saw him play deeper as the 8. And honestly, I think Bruno plays better when he's got the license to roam. I don't know if he's got the positional discipline to be that further back player. You know, you pair him alongside Ugarte. Their styles should technically overlap, but it looked like too disjointed. And physically, they're both quite small. Even though they're both energetic players, they're both quite small in stature. You know, they're both going to press. They're both going to get after it. And that can leave gaping holes. You need someone that's going to be able to mop up. If one's going to go, one needs to stay. And Mbeumo looked a little bit more energetic, but he doesn't look like he's got the reading of the game to get into those pockets and put the fires out before they start. Do you know that Michael Carrick sort of way of reading the game and being in the right place at the right time? Casemiro looked like he was doing quite well on a defensive point of view, both front foot and back foot defending. But he didn't look quite as fast with the ball. Like, he kind of slowed the tempo down just that little bit. And I think that game against Everton probably encapsulated that a little bit. You know, those transitions through midfield, United was scrambling repeatedly. You know, the system requires a real polished pivot. Someone that's going to screen that back line, break up the opposition, but get on the ball and move it forward into attack. Like, that player isn't obvious. You know, I think fixing the forward line, we have exposed the gap in the midfield. We've got a great range of options, but probably why we've been linked with Baleba, because the obvious player to fix all of this isn't a Manchester United player. And the need for a player in that role is massive. Number 3, Mbeumo. Now, Brian Mbeumo arrived in the States buzzing, and we obviously only saw him for half of a game. He linked up well in that first half against Everton, final game on a tour. Wasn't featured in the other ones. He linked up well with Cunha. He linked up well with Bruno. He linked up quite well with Ahmad down the side. He carried the ball in dangerous areas. He ran off the ball really well, drawing defenders and leaving space for other people. That off-the-ball movement's massively lacking in the team. And he got praise from Amorim for both his energy and tactical adjustment that he's made. But the distance between where he is and top gear was quite clear. He's not fit. That photo doing the rounds, probably just taken at a bad angle, but ultimately he doesn't look fit. He clearly wasn't fit enough to feature in all 3 of the games, hence why we only saw him for half of one. His absence meant that we had to shuffle the pack a little bit in the other of the games. He will be a starter, I'm sure, but whether or not he'll be ready for the Arsenal game, I don't know. We might have to see how he gets on against Fiorentina this weekend. But I'm sure he'll get there. But, you know, there was a lot of spark, a lot to like, but nowhere near enough of him seen. So we got to get him ready for the start of the season, which I'm sure we will. Number 4, Cunha and flair. So Cunha really brought a flair, real sharp feet, intuitive runs, dangerous positioning, a desire to drive with the ball. Early signs of, you know, why his name was mentioned alongside Cantona in terms of the impact that he might have, which is hella giddy, but, you know, I get it. It was a problem between the lines, and, you know, he was shrugging defenders off. He looked willing to try stuff. His pressing was fantastic, and you can tell this is a player that United have missed. This is, you know, this is someone that was made to play at Old Trafford. The instinct was there with him. You know, he slashed a few shots wide. A couple of passes went astray. Final ball wasn't always there. But this is what pre-season's about. It's about trying to... You know, the connection wasn't quite there with him and Bruno, for starters. But it's good signals. He isn't going to be 20 goals, 20 assists, I don't think. He's not going to have to carry that burden alone like he did at Wolves. But he does open things up. He'll create space for Sesko. Now he's on his way. He will find Sesko with balls. He will create space for Bruno. And also, as Sesko takes people away at the front post, having Cunha drafting in behind him or centrally or at the back post, mad options for us. And he presses. He works hard off the ball. He is dynamic. I think he'll be vital for us this season. It's going to be interesting who steals the headlines, but maybe having, you know, Sesko and Mbeumo and Cunha and who knows who else all signed in one window shares that sort of burden of I've got to be a success because I'm the big money signing. Maybe there's a little bit less pressure on him than there would have been if he had been our only signing. But either way, I think he'll be a good player. Number 5, Hojlund improved, but he's still not good enough. He was better on the tour, but he's still underwhelmed. He got on the end of stuff. They did show a glimpse of, you know, solid finishing, but it's not enough. It was a little bit more luck than conviction. Movement still isn't anywhere near good enough. He was a little bit hesitant on the ball. First touch wasn't quite there. I thought off the ball he was better. I thought last season he really frustrated me in terms of how lazy his pressing was. That was a little bit better, noticeably better. But the fact that we've just gone and signed Sesko, I think it tells you everything. United have, and the fact that, you know, he wasn't even started in the final game, that tells you everything. United have addressed this glaring deficiency in the forward line, and Hojlund probably going to end up being a casualty of that. On one hand, he might be able to now train and focus without pressure and allow Sesko to be the number 1. I have a feeling that United are going to move him on. I feel like he's probably going to either go on loan or be sold this summer, as United maybe keep hold of Xerxes as a second option up front. It's interesting because we've gone from having no forwards and relying on Hojlund to now having Hojlund be completely surplus to requirements. And number 9 was an absolute necessity for us. I thought it was such a big deal that we needed to be fixed, but they fixed it, and now you can go, okay, let's look at some of the other issues that we've got, because there are other issues in the squad. But yeah, I think Hojlund, he did improve, but he's still got a long way to go before he'll be Manchester United's number 9, hence why we've just signed Benjamin Sesko. But it'd be interesting to see if he sticks around or if he gets moved on. And then a bonus one, the fitness and conditioning is up. Obviously, it's not part of the 5, but United look sharp. They look leaner physically. Mbeumo looks outrageously good. But you could see them at half-time, at full-time. You know, I spoke to one of the strength and conditioning coaches, and he was like, we've just done a leg session, smashed them after a game. United look conditioned. They're talking conditioned. When you look at how sluggish last season was, how poor we were physically last season, they've come into pre-season looking like we mean it. Amorim gave everybody some stuff to work on while they were away. They've come back in far better shape than they finished, and they've smashed it throughout pre-season. We look way more able to engage in high-tempo pressing, to be able to have the output to play this system that Amorim wants us to play. And with only one game a week, it makes you excited. This isn't just a team that's rebuilding in terms of its talent and signing players that are able to take us forward because they're better footballers. It looks like we're rebuilding the foundations of athleticism as well, and that's going to take us a long way, because for too long this United team has languished in the bottom half of the table when it comes to meters ran and high tempo pressing, and I don't think that's going to be the case this season. I think United might shock a few people with that. So there you go, there's 5 things that we learned on pre-season tour. Did I miss any? Any that you're particularly excited about? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Laters. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, 5-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.